If you look at all these kids putting these septum rings in and, making these big things out of their earlobes, just totally deforming their body, the tattoos everywhere, they're making themselves look like indigenous people, like they used to put bones in their nose and savages. And what they're saying is they hate the modern world. A lot of it is white guilt for having so much success. And that happens. That's a psychological phenomenon. There's a lot of guilt. It's like survivor guilt in the war. If you lived, and where that comes from is very complicated, but guilt in itself is a totally false idea, and it comes from religion, and that's where that whole survivor guilt comes from, is this idea of religion instead of the truth, which is it's arbitrary who survives and who does not. It's just a matter of luck and placement. And it's the same thing with Western culture. Nobody, the West, all the white people didn't get together and say, hey, we're going to run over everybody. They were trying to get as much for themselves as possible, just like everybody else, and they were better at it. It's like the Germans and the Holocaust. They're nowhere near the first people to commit genocide on a large level. Every culture in the world has done that. But that's the big one because they were so damn good at it. And that's what the Western world has done. They've been very good at getting resources for themselves. And in the process, if you look at the world, they've shared it everywhere. Every civilization on Earth now, except, a couple of pockets where there are tribal people that won't accept it, have air conditioners and cars, and they can do what they want with them. Most of the people who were run over completely, like in Africa and the Middle East back in the day, still haven't learned how to use that stuff for their own advantage. They still have it and they get to enjoy the fruits of it, but they're still living like way back in, this mental idea of a long time ago. And that was the problem back then. All of these white Europeans were going around the world, finding new things, getting stuff. They were excited. It was fun. And I was watching a documentary the other day when they had, I think it was the French, had some colonies in Africa, and they had to bring in Indians to run the businesses because the Africans couldn't run the businesses. And they were trying to create a world there for those people and for themselves where they were making the whole world modern, and they did. And where's their abuses and death and cruelty? That's always here. That's always part of everything. That's part of humanity. It's part of every race. Was every white person that way? No. Some people were trying to do the right thing amidst all that. Plus, back in that day, people killed their own food. There was a very serious scarcity of food. You were hungry most of the time. You were cold and freezing in the winter. Freezing. I mean, there was no heater. You were lucky if you got to huddle around a fire. And in the summer, you were burned up. And that makes you a different person when you live through that much physical suffering all the time. And the whole world was that way. It was a different world with more brutality. 1,000 years from now, they'll look back at the way we treat Amazon workers and the things that happen now, and it will look just as brutal to them as that does to modern people today, because they will have, unless we don't embrace Western culture and start loving it again, because if we don't, then there's not going to be an advance in the thousands of years. There's going to be a decline. And you can already see it starting to decline. And there'll probably be something here for my lifetime. But if you're younger, you need to start standing up and putting these people down that are trying to tear up Western culture and grabbing a hold of it yourself, recruiting your friends, getting a strong groups, start pushing these people away, make your own movies, make your own music. Don't listen to this stuff that's tearing us apart, and start supporting an environment that is good for everyone.